All right, ladies and gentlemen, what a fight night it was. This Saturday, we just saw a fight night over there at the Apex. Lewis versus Oleinik was the main event. But we saw a pretty good undercard, Dave. What was your just
Yeah.
overall feelings about the fight night that we just saw this weekend?
I mean, I love the undercard. The undercard had a lot of good fights. It's always fun, to start out the night with some of those undercards. Those guys are hungry. Those guys have had either, it's their first fight or their follow-up fight,
Mhm.
in the UFC. So it's always nice to see some of those and see who are the up-and-comers and, the guys that you might want to see in the next, maybe not main eventing a fight night, but in the next fight night. So it was,
Sure.
it was, it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
In the first fight, it was Darush versus Holtzman, and Darush got the knockout in the first round with 4 minutes and 38 seconds. It was a pretty interesting fight.
Almost decisive, if you ask me. I mean, Darush dominated that fight. Carlos, one of our friends, called that out. I mean, I was watching the fight with him, and before he started the fight, I've seen him before, but I hadn't seen a ton of his fights, and he dominated from start to finish. I mean, it was a just straight dominant victory.
I think the ref a couple of times was just having to make sure that the guys were checking because Holtzman, I think he almost got a low blow in there and a couple other things, and Darush afterwards was apologizing because he felt like he had a sloppy fight. Um,
Yeah, I
and
didn't think so.
like Dave was saying, he had a pretty decisive fight, but in the post-fight interview, that's the first thing he did was apologize. So it's pretty interesting just to see how some of these fighters grade themselves against
Right.
their own performances.
Yeah.
That high standard of excellence that they have, right?
Definitely. They're in the UFC. They're getting that spotlight. I think now is the time to captivate audiences that are at home. Really, it's your highest moment to shine. I think you're not going to get these moments back. Sports are coming back little by little, but there's a lot of attention on the UFC, and I think that's going to be important for some of these guys that are up and comers and winning fights. Right now.
Absolutely. And then in the next fight, it was Jana Kushnuk or Kushinya versus Julia oh my god, I can't pronounce his name. It was Jana versus Julia, and that went all 3 rounds, and Jana won by decision.
She did. She was ranked number 8. I think she's the one that's Thiago Santos's girlfriend. And he was in her corner. Thiago Santos being one of the light heavyweight guys, one of the guys that fought John Jones. And she's had a couple of wins. We didn't really predict her fight because we didn't know too much. I hadn't seen her fight too much. But she was pretty dominant. She really controlled time on the cage. She seemed like the slimmer girl, but the taller and lengthier girl. And she was dominant. She She looked good in there.
Absolutely, and just to or prove your sense of dominance for her, she killed in the total strikes. She had 209 out of 254 shots land versus her opponent who only went 30 for 50. So she threw way more punches than her.
Yeah.
And if you look at significant strikes, she hit 43 of 57 significant strikes. So she had more significant strikes than her opponent had total strikes. So
Right.
I mean, if that doesn't speak to dominance, I don't know what would.
It was dominant. It was a dominant victory. I'd love to see who her next opponent up is going to be. And as some of these fight nights keep coming along, we're going to be covering all of them as best we can, and it's going to give us an opportunity to share with you guys, some of those same fights and our thoughts and analysis on that.
Absolutely, and I think speaking of dominant fights, the middleweight matchup versus Mackey versus Stewart was pretty one-sided, and Stewart really dominated him with the submission with 3 minutes and 41 seconds in that first round. And what was your thoughts about that particular match?
Yeah, that was another one that seemed pretty dominant and decisive. It was, I believe it was first round, wasn't it? First round finish.
Yes,
first round finish on that one. He looked good. I haven't seen too many of Stewart's fights, but I am now excited to see what he brings on next. and who they give him next. That was a pretty fun fight. That was a pretty quick and decisive, get out of there, not hurt.
Yep.
He had like one little cut, maybe might have been just a breeze up with, I think at the top of his head at the end, but he still finished pretty quickly.
He came out pretty clean, and like you said, it was a pretty quick fight as opposed to what we saw in the co-main event. That looked like it was more of a war versus Omari and Chris Weidman. That was, if you ask me, it was definitely probably my favorite fight of the card, just because it was a pure battle. Like these guys, by the second round, were putting everything into it, saying, "I don't want to lose." What was your thoughts of that match?
I was kind of like disappointed in seeing Weidman the way he looked, gassed after the second round. As you guys remember, we called both these fights. Really, I know we kind of switched up, but as you saw, our decisive. We weren't really decisive either way. Weidman's opponent had come in there with a winning streak. Weidman needed a win. We said that. And in my heart, I said I'm going Weidman because the Long Island thing. But at the same time, I just knew he's former champion was going to come out there and bring it, and he did. I mean, I'm not saying he didn't. I would just say that the way that he looked from a former champion, I expected him to be a little bit more. I don't know, maybe if the weight cut affected him, or he's looked so much better in the past than this. So I hope he kind of really works on his cardio a little bit more. I mean, he's 36, so I don't know that it's going to improve like a tremendous amount. But if you're going to get in championship contention and you're trying to climb the ranks back up, you're only going to start getting, or they're only going to start putting you in some co-mains and main events. And main events could be 5-round fights. You can't tell me that you can toss out there a Weidman the way that he looked in this performance on a 5-round. He was gassed by the second. On the third, I'm honestly, even at the end of the fight, if you looked at him, he was just laying on, that was what I apologize. His name I can't pronounce, but what was his opponent's name?
His opponent in that one was Omari.
Yeah, Omari. So, yeah, and that was my thought on him. Now, listen, it depends on who they give him next. Obviously, they're going to give him somebody ranked.
Well, I will say this, though. I agree with you. Weidman did look gas in the second round. I thought it was over, and he was just fighting on for dear life.
He did.
In that third round, he really came on like, my career is literally going to be over if I don't win this. And he came in hard, and he took him to the ground, and he really – did his thing to win. That's one thing I'll say is he showed the heart of a champion, but can he get the cardio of a champion?
No, and here's the thing. I'm not. I think he absolutely did a great job. Chris Weidman is a likable guy. I mean, he came out there and said all the right things. He knows he didn't have the best performance. Yep. If you look at it from our perspective, right, from just the spectator, and not being in the cage, I'm sure there's things that we might not necessarily be able to say that he did tremendously well. But I think from watching it, there was a couple of spots where he could have just done better. He was trying to get a squeeze at the bottom at the end, and clearly he was so gassed that he really couldn't tighten up on that squeeze. And then lastly, he was top mount, so he was really on top of him and really could have ground and pound. But I think he was more concerned about losing the fight and getting more control and not putting himself at risk. And again, smart play by a former champion, right? You don't want to necessarily, he's already gassed, maybe one wrong hit could have really knocked him out. So great fight. I liked it. I really hope that Weidman gets another ranked guy, and hopefully he gets another win so that we can kind of see him where he probably should end the later part of his career, maybe being one of the top guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping that he takes a little bit of time. I know they were talking about he moved to South Carolina for training and everything. I'm just hoping that he could take a little bit of time to actually get himself into a little bit of shape, because he did look a little sluggish. Conditioning looked like it was an issue in this fight.
For sure.
And I would like to see him get into conditioning because he has the mind and the heart of the champion. He just needs to get his stamina and his conditioning up there. And I think, like you said, he might be able to end his career where he belongs, fighting against those champs. But one dude who's really actually spent a lot of time into his conditioning and into his preparation was Lewis, who was in the main event versus Oleinik. Okay, and he knocked
Oleinik.
Oleinik. I'm sorry. I'm horrible with some of these names. He's foreign.
So both of us.
Yeah.
So
He had a second round knockout. But he came out in the first round, and Oleinik was doing his thing. He had him on the ground. He had him in a decent hold, and to start that second round, Lewis looked angry. He just looked angry, and he just came out with that flying kick and just he started punching him like, you held me, and I just was like, damn.
I mean, Lewis looked great. He's done that flying knee now twice for a big 265er. Imagine all that weight on a knee, a flying knee at that. I like it because it kind of it throws people off. They don't expect it, and really it sets up his next move. Every time he's thrown it, it's always landing after that really puts his opponent either down or gets a good connect that dazes him. So we called this fight, Oleinik is past his prime. He's 43. Derrick Lewis is a top contender. They said it, even when they asked him post fight, they said, who do you want to fight? And there's one guy Curtis Blades, that's who escapes the name always. Curtis Blades, he mentioned in Ngannou, which he has a win over Ngannou, but it was a chess match, really nothing crazy on the Ngannou fight. And then he also said that he wants to drop down about 15, 20 more pounds before he gets back in there, which I think is smart. He looks much, much better overall than even a lot of his older fights, his previous fights. So I like it.
Yeah, he was saying that he's like in some of the best shape of his life, and like you said, he said he's not taking any fights to at least December because he wants to cut that 15 to 20. Yeah. So this not gonna be scary because he showed some power.
Black Beast, man, he's got that right hook.
Yeah,
and even when the bell started ringing, I was like, they're gonna get him out of there in the first 10 seconds. If you saw those shots, it was just like get out of his way.
And when he was throwing them, he just looked angry. Like, I was just sitting there like,
that's Lewis. That's Lewis for you.
And then when he was done, his whole after post fight dances, like, damn, bro, seriously,
bro, that's him. That's and he's another one who's a great guy. Fun fan favorite. And yeah, I think this is the type of analysis I think that we love to try and bring, because this is why we started up this company with the Daily Sporting, because not that we are so much far above anybody else, because we're watching the same fights you guys are fighting, but I think it helps in just getting a little bit of an edge. And in sports and in betting and in anything, if you have a little bit of an edge, sometimes with knowing some of the things going on in the sport, is going to help you make a better decision or a better determination for what you're going to decide to do if you're making any bets, if you're picking any teams. In this case, you would have had a 2-team parlay, kind of like I did, and the Weidman and Lewis fight, and it's an easy 100, it's an easy 1,000, it's an easy 500. Now, are we going to hit 1,000 or bat 1,000? No, but at least we're going to make those educated decisions, and we're going to make that we're going to be 5 to 10% above that 50% mark, and that's what I think we brought you in this fight analysis. So that's what I think about the Lewis fight, man. I think it was good. I think he did great, and I'm excited for the next one.
My question for you right now, before we get going, is: are you ready for Stipe versus Cormier? That's going to be interesting, huh?
Listen, DC Stipe is going to be the rubber match here, the trilogy, and
what I'd actually like to. Did you see the interview that DC had in the right before the event? What did you think of that? He was talking about he's trained harder than he has for a lot of other fights, and that he went through a full camp because he felt like that was what held him back the last time he fought Stipe. What do you think of that?
I mean, if it's you gotta, I listened to his coach also, and they were asking him, did he think that Stipe, DC underestimate Stipe, and his coach said, of course not. Stipe is a champion, defended the title so many times. He didn't underestimate him. He went in there and he unfortunately got those body shots and got the big victory. The DC interview, I think he understands that the only person he's lost to is John Jones. He's never lost in the heavyweight division until he fought Stipe. And for his legacy, for the end of his career, we all know this is going to be the end of his career unless one of those guys get Jones. And it's almost like if he wins versus Stipe, he gets Jones if they pay him back up the Brinks truck. And if he beats Jones, I mean, it solidifies him as probably one of the greatest of all time, or if not the greatest of all time. Even though Jones has beat him, several times. Jones to me is the best of all time, and I don't know that is the way it would play out. I think if Jones fights him again, he beats him again.
But then again, you don't even have DC beating Stipe, so
right. So we're going far into a hypothetical here. I'm just saying, in general, I think DC is amazing. He's a great fighter. I think he's a legend in general. Like everything aside, I just don't think he's going to be able to beat Stipe. I think Stipe is another legend here. I mean, he has fought them all. He's pretty much beat them all. And I think the interview it was what it was. I think DC was trying to explain why he basically needs to win this fight, legacy, and that's it.
And I like that he put it a lot on his legacy, and I like that he really got into full training camp where he made sure that his conditioning is up. I know, especially in the heavyweight during this period of time, it's probably hard to maintain your shape and your figure because heck, nobody can go out and really get the workouts in that they're used to. So it's nice to hear that he's fully, locked and loaded for this fight. We're really going to go in depth with some coverage on that card coming up this week. So make sure you stay tuned for that because we know that UFC 252 is revved up and ready to go this weekend. And we are excited to see this one. Stipe versus DC. The battle for legacy continues. Yeah, until next time, everyone. I think we had a great fight night, and don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Dave, anything else for the audience as we part out?
Nothing, man. We just keep appreciating you guys coming out and checking us out. We're going to start doing some different things in the future here as the channel continues to grow. We say that all the time, but it's facts. Stay tuned for our website. That's being worked on, so there's a lot of things, guys, in that we're working on. There's a couple of interviews we're going to hopefully be having as well. So stay tuned, man. There's a lot of things going on that we hope you guys are going to come back and enjoy as we continue to build. And then, yes, subscribe, share, like, and definitely subscribe to that YouTube channel for sure. We appreciate you guys. That's what I got.
All right. Peace out, everybody. Till next time. Peace.